As a criminal defense attorney based out of Seattle, Washington, who's handled a lot of domestic violence related matters and a lot of self-defense related matters, and runs a firm that does so, I want to talk a little bit about self-defense as I see it in the state of Washington, and what are some of the hot topics that often come up. From the law's perspective, self-defense is when you're asking the law or a judge or a jury, more importantly, to excuse conduct where you assaulted somebody else. You put your hands on them. And the law, for obvious reasons, I think, wants to limit the number of circumstances that people can do this. They'd rather have, obviously, police officers where somebody else arrests somebody else than have you have to take matters into your own hands. The RCW that guides this is 9A.16.020, and the RCW stands for, it's a revised Code of Washington. It's the law in its black and white, most black and white form as to defining what self-defense is. I recommend looking it up, though it's written in legalese for the most part. There is some stuff, there is some aspects of it that are, I think people can pull valuable information out of. One particular area of domestic violence, or pardon me, one particular area of self-defense that I see a lot, especially in domestic violence circumstances, is when a person is defending themselves or their personal property or some other third party. And the law is very specific when you can do that. And there's a couple of overriding concepts that the law wants to see in these kinds of circumstances. They want to see that you use no more force than necessary, and they want you to be under the immediate threat of whatever's going on that you need to defend yourself from. So, for example, they don't want you to defending yourself 4 hours later after the incident. Certainly you could have called the police by then. There's a lot of other things that could have taken place. What they want to do is authorize your ability to use force under the immediate threat. So one aspect of a self-defense claim in that set of circumstances is that you're under an immediate threat. The concept of using no more force than necessary is a very, from my perspective as a defense attorney, gray concept. And from the law's perspective, often it's a jury concept, because what is more force than necessary varies depending on the circumstances. For example, if the other person has a reputation for violence, for example, the size of the other person, the history of the other person, what type of weapon they have, were they the aggressor, were you the aggressor? Did you attempt to stop the fight? Did you really try to end it and the other person wouldn't end it? What is more force than necessary is one of those areas where there is a lot of case law in self-defense, and it depends specifically on the facts and circumstances in order to answer that question. One more issue that I commonly see in self-defense cases is, or not commonly, but comes up, is whether somebody accidentally hurt somebody else or intentionally hurt somebody else. And I guess what's important to know is that you can't accidentally defend yourself. You have to intentionally defend yourself. So for example, if my wife is flicking me in the ear and I go like this and by accident in the process of doing it brush her nose in a way that breaks it, and the police get called and I talk to the officer, I say, I accidentally hit her. I didn't mean to. I was kind of defending myself. She was flicking my ear, it was making me nuts. And he said, and the answer on that one is what I just said, is that I didn't intentionally assault her. I wasn't actually defending myself. However, same set of facts, my wife punches me in the back of the head and I turn around and I grab her arms and restrain her using reasonable force, no more than necessary. If I leave bruises on her or marks on her, I still have a valid claim of self-defense. I intentionally restrained her or assaulted her by grabbing her and touching her, but I was doing so in a reasonable manner, using no more force than necessary, under the threat of an imminent assault, under what was exactly going on. So that gives you an idea, for example, in domestic violence cases, how a self-defense claim creates itself and how it gets formed. With that in mind, I hope that kind of gives you a general idea about self-defense claims. And it certainly gives you the Revised Code of Washington as a starting point when you're looking at any of these.